So today I'm talking about the spot tie and deciding, does it still have a place in the modern tie wardrobe? When I left school at 18 to get a job in a bank and I had to go shopping and get my sort of work clothes, I needed a handful of ties to see me through the week. And the first one I bought was a spot tie. It was the 80s, spot ties were everywhere. And it was very classic, quite sophisticated, I felt, quite grown up. And it was good to sort of fit in. It went with my 2 or 3 suits I had, but I also enjoyed the fact that it was easy to mix with other patterns. So I used to wear stripy shirts and spot ties as part of my look for work because I felt it was quite confident. I remember people saying in the 80s when I started work, don't mix spots and stripes. You don't hear that anymore. But I really like the look. I think I saw it in a few fashion magazines. When I got into the trade a few years later, and I was working for a German street brand, I was exposed to a lot of spot ties, and spot ties were probably the most popular design to sell back in the 80s, early 90s. When I talk to my own personal customers, my private clients about pattern mixing, and I always start with, if you're not confident, always start with a spot, because it's the most elegant, simplest pattern combination, which I think is very pleasing. And I think this look here wouldn't have looked out of place when I started work, although the square would have been slightly unusual back then, but still looks relevant and fresh today. I just think the navy spot tie, the Bengal striped shirt, a plain suit and a simple pocket square always looks fresh, elegant, smart and seasonless. I don't think it's pretty much a winter or summer look. You can wear this all year round and still look smart. So there's an appeal to it. As I've got older and more refined in my taste, I prefer woven spot ties to look for what I was wearing with printed spot ties, because I find they hold the shape of the spot nicer. I used to get slightly frustrated. We used to wear quite big spots that are printed, and with time, around the neck, the spot would turn egg-shaped, and that would really annoy me, so I'd stop wearing these ties. So I think a small woven spot tie is such an easy combination. I'd recommend this for a presentation, for an interview, where you want to come across as being sophisticated but conservative. It's always a smart look. And to complete this look, I would actually recommend black shoes. Now, I don't often recommend black shoes outside of sort of traditional formal wear, but I think I'd really capture this old school classic vibe. Maybe a black penny loafer or a black Oxford, dark socks, and you've got really good conservative business dress. So where does the spot tie come in the formality scale? I would say, depending on the size and the colour, pretty formal, quite conservative. I would say this dark red with a small woven spot is as formal and conservative as a plain tie, potentially in certain looks, even more conservative than a plain tie. However, if you go for bolder colours and bigger spots, which can be a bit of fun, they become more playful and more celebratory for occasions, a bit more dandyish. But the small spot tie is always appropriate, smart, elegant. Doesn't mean you can't have fun with it, because the great thing about the small spot tie is you can mix it with bolder shirts, bolder patterned suits, pocket squares. So it gives you a real foil for more flamboyant things in your wardrobe. So another reason why they are such a great thing to have. And here I've shown it with a blazer. Spot tie and blazer is such a great look. Again, it was probably my weekend working uniform for 3 or 4 years when I worked on the shop floor. Blazer, flannels, ubiquitous brown suede shoes, and a spot tie just looks so smart. I would often, with this look, we've got a plain blue shirt here, but also to give it a slightly sportier look, you could put an Oxford shirt, maybe an Oxford button down, and again, in the current look, swap that out for maybe a chambray. You've got a really nice, conservative but still smart casual look. So again, it's not just for suits. A spot tie is really useful for mixing with your blazers and the sports jackets. And a very elegant variation on the classic woven spot tie is this one here, which has a beautiful textured background, but the spot just gives it a bit more interest. This is a great look, I think, for a more festive occasion, perhaps for a wedding, slightly less corporate looking. But I just feel how the small spot just brings the whole look together, and it looks lovely with this pocket square. I think this combination just shows that sometimes a limited colour palette can look very elegant as long as you mix the textures and the patterns up. It looks very well put together. This could either be a suit. If it wasn't a suit, I would go keep it very neutral, keep in sort of beige colours, and again the shoes stick with dark browns, maybe like a polished Oxford. But I think this is a very smart, sophisticated way of wearing a spot tie. Well, I hope we've inspired you to consider spot ties for your wardrobe. Any questions about styling, please put in the comments below. Always good to hear your points of view. And don't forget to subscribe.